And we are back on the Jim Leach Show on 970 WMAY, the news and talk of Springfield. This hour of the show brought to you by Carpenter's Local 16. Our State Fair broadcasts all day, every weekday at the fair, sponsored by Central Illinois Building Trades. Visit the AFL-CIO Labor Pavilion behind the Emerson Building near Gate 2 of the fairgrounds. Stop by to celebrate and support organized labor and learn how you could win a 55-inch TV with Blu-ray at the Labor Pavilion. It is Ag Day at the Illinois State Fair, and congressional candidate Rodney Davis, he's the Republican running in the 13th Congressional District. He's talking a lot of ag issues today on and off the fairgrounds, but took some time to stop by early this morning and sit down and talk with us. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Jim. Will you do me a quick favor tonight? Tell your son Dylan it was great to meet him at the fair parade.
I will do that, and he enjoyed meeting you, too. He has a great time at the parade and a great time walking around at the fair and getting to see everything that happens here, including all the important people who come out to the fairgrounds, such as yourself. So a pleasure to have you here. I do want to talk some ag issues with you this morning, but first and foremost, the big political story in the air right now is the selection of Paul Ryan as Mitt Romney's running mate. Now, I don't know, because you're a longtime congressional staffer, and I don't know how much interaction you've had with other members of the GOP caucus on Capitol Hill, but I do know that your opponent and some of his supporters, and even U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, have tried very hard to link you and Paul Ryan and to put the Paul Ryan budget plan and what it does for Medicare firmly around your neck. Is that a mantle you're willing to wear? Are you willing to be that closely identified to Paul Ryan?
I'm still trying to get past being called important by you. So, that's the furthest thing from my concerns being linked to Paul Ryan. I didn't have a lot of interaction with other members because, as you know, Jim, I spent my entire career in public service working here in Illinois. So unless they came through the district on behalf of Mr. Shimkus, I didn't meet them. Now, I will tell you, I have met Paul Ryan since I've been a candidate. Just shake hands, introduce myself, him the same, and that's it. But that doesn't stop my opponent and the Democrats in Washington from shooting out an email and a press release about 5 seconds after he got the nomination saying that the problems in Illinois are the 3 R's: Romney, Ryan, and Rodney. It's been interesting.
But they do want to make the case that you back Ryan's budget priorities, that you are a supporter of what he put forward. Is that inaccurate?
It is inaccurate. I have never said that I backed that Ryan budget proposal in its entirety. I think what Paul Ryan has done is changed the national debate on things that I think are important to all Americans, which is cutting spending and attacking the national debt. And I think that's a discussion that we need to have. That's something I've been talking about throughout the entire nomination process 10.5 weeks ago and since I've been named a candidate.
What do you disagree with on it? Because the hot button is obviously Medicare and his talk about moving it to more of a voucher-type program. Is that something that should be considered? Are you opposed to it outright? Where do you stand?
Well, I think what you've seen already with Mr. Ryan, with Congressman Ryan, has been that he proposed a plan a few years ago and has since changed it and modified it, and that's what you'll see in Congress. That's why I want to get to Washington, to be able to sit around the table, have the ability to discuss the different ideas and come up with a great compromise that's going to preserve and protect Medicare as we know it. Right now, $714 billion is what is being cut out of Medicare with Obamacare. And we have to ensure that we have a system that keeps the promises for the seniors that have been promised health care coverage by Medicare.
$714 billion in payments to providers and to drug vendors, et cetera. And the Ryan budget keeps those cuts in there. I mean, but then also adds the voucher portion to it, or it did at least at one point. And you're correct that plan has been modified from time to time. So should that $714 billion not be cut anywhere, whether it's Obamacare or if the GOP gets the chance to come in and set the budget priorities? Do you want to restore all that money, and how do you do that and still try to keep those costs down and keep Medicare solvent?
Well, what we need to do is ensure that we actually have a path to keep Medicare solvent. And that's why I want to get to Washington to discuss what are the particulars in doing just that, while ensuring, though, that those seniors who are retired right now and receiving Medicare benefits are still going to get the benefits that they promised and the coverage they promised. And what we've talked about before is, I believe the Affordable Care Act is a pathway toward a more government-controlled system, which my opponent wants. He wants a single-payer system, which if Obamacare and other plans include cuts, what does a single-payer system include? And then again, how are we going to pay for the extra $1 trillion cost of that too?
So, and you made the point of saying that, and with the Ryan plan, current seniors 55 and older wouldn't see any change in the program. Implicitly, that says that a guy like me, not yet 55, but getting there quickly, I will see changes, and I won't have necessarily the same guarantees that a person who's 56 or 66 or 76 currently has. What I guess I'm looking for from you on is, are there inviolable principles in all of this to say we won't go to a voucher system? We will make sure that we are doing the same things for tomorrow's seniors that we're doing for today's seniors? Or can you not say that at this point? Does everything have to be on the table, including the possibility of vouchers?
You know, I think ensuring that promises made to retirees and almost retirees have to be kept on any plan that's put out there. But I don't think any American who has the goal of ensuring that Medicare remains solvent will box themselves into a corner and talk about specific proposals during a political campaign to get demonized by the other side. I mean, if you do, then, you know, I think we're not doing a service to the American public. We're not doing a service to all other Americans, and seniors included, when we start to discuss specifics that we don't have a say on right now. The Ryan budget proposal is not law. The only Medicare cuts that are actual law are in the Affordable Care Act. So we have to address healthcare delivery as a whole, reduce the costs, and part of Medicare, part of savings in Medicare and savings in the overall healthcare delivery system is ensuring that doctors and patients have that cost delivery relationship once again, which they don't have right now, Jim.
But and I want to get to some other things here. I don't want to weigh this down. But I guess the last question on this point is, how do voters evaluate then? As you said, you don't want to get boxed into something that you can't necessarily control right now. But as voters are trying to choose between you and your opponent, how do they evaluate what electing you to Congress would mean to them? Medicare is a very popular program, and you ask people, do you want to see the types of changes that the Ryan plan a couple of years ago talked about? And they overwhelmingly say, no, we don't want to see that. So how do they evaluate you to say, we can trust that you'll do what we want you to do on Medicare?
Well, number one, they can evaluate me greatly because that's a huge contrast between my opponent and me. He wants a single-payer system. He says he wants a health care system that goes beyond what was passed in the Affordable Care Act.
He calls it, in fact, Medicare for all. And again, Medicare is a very popular program.
Medicare is a popular program, but I think we agree, too, Jim, that all of the actuaries and the trustees say Medicare in 12 years will not have enough funds to sustain itself. So putting everybody on Medicare for all, does that bring the insolvency date even closer than 12 years? I mean, that's a distinct contrast between my opponent and me. What I'm saying is, let's put a plan out there that, number one, ensures that current retirees and retirees that are 55 and older right now understand that they have certainty. It's the same certainty we talk about with small businesses and their lack of understanding on what their tax bill is going to look like at the end of the year. And they don't know what their health care costs are going to be. So how do we make sure that they create jobs and help us regain our economy?
Let's talk agriculture now, because that's the reason that you're out and about today. It is Ag Day here at the fair. We're going to be meeting with folks from the Farm Bureau just a little bit later on this morning. The big issue on everybody's mind right now is the drought. What should the federal government be doing, and are there things that it should be doing that it's not currently doing to help farmers in this critical time?
Well, this is an historic drought. I mean, I think all of us in central Illinois who aren't farmers can judge that by the fact that we haven't mowed our lawn in months. So we see it just in our yards. But imagine having the input costs that a farmer has and putting their livelihood into the ground and have it be affected by the same drought. What Washington needs to do, Jim, is they have to pass a comprehensive farm bill. It's a failure of both Democrats and Republicans right now that they can't address such an important issue as a comprehensive farm bill. And that farm bill has to be has to include a strengthened crop insurance program and risk management tools that farmers are willing to utilize and get away from the direct payment system. And that's what I think we need to have happen in Washington. I don't think it's going to pass before the end of the year. I think they'll temporarily extend it, and I think that's a failure of both parties.
Explain a little bit more about the alternatives to direct payment, and are we talking in this case about subsidies? That's one of the big issues, obviously. We have this tug of war between those who say, let's just let the market do its job and let the chips fall where they may, versus those who say the government's got to be there to support farmers and to back them up and help them during critical times like this or other times when we just have these wild fluctuations in the market. You're a small government guy. How much should the government be involved in agriculture and be involved in cutting checks to farmers and affecting the market in that way?
Well, I think what we in Illinois sometimes don't think about often is how much the Illinois farmers feed the world. And I think they're underappreciated for doing that. What the Illinois farmers that I talk to tell me is that they're willing to give up direct payment subsidies to ensure that they have access to crop insurance programs and are able to invest in crop insurance if they decide to. Some farmers decide to self-insure and not make that case. That's where I think we see a very doable, substantive farm bill that's going to utilize the market prices and utilize the market to our advantage and to their advantage.
What's the holdup then?
Politics. The polarization of Washington right now, and it frustrates me. It frustrates me as a candidate. It frustrates me as an American, and that's the holdup.
Are you hoping to get on the Ag Committee if you're elected to Congress?
Absolutely.
Do you have ag background in your history? I mean, what's your base of knowledge for those ag issues?
I don't have an agricultural background on the farm. I mean, I grew up in Taylorville, so there are some here in Illinois, about 250 miles north of here, that think we all work on farms, but that's not the case. But it's a community that has been active in my entire life and where I've grown up, and some of my best friends are farmers now. But I'll tell you what I do best is I listen and I learn. And that's why I'm going to have this Ag Advisory Board meeting today, where we bring the best and the brightest in the agriculture communities of this area to talk to me about these issues and educate me on the policies that are going to work in Washington.
Are you back on the fairgrounds then later today?
Not later today, but we'll be back. We'll be back Thursday.
Thursday, as a matter of fact. Yes, a little thing that we call Republican Day here at the fairgrounds. So I wouldn't be surprised to see you here at all. Rodney Davis, candidate for Congress in the 13th Congressional District. Thanks for your time this morning. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Jim. Can you get me an invite for Wednesday too?
I will put in a word for you. I absolutely will. 6:55. We're back after this live from the Illinois State Fair on the Jim Leach Show.
More live local talk from the
State Fair on the Jim Leach Show.
More live local talk from the
State Fair on